Yo guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're going to be answering some of you guys' questions integrated with a little bit of questions that I also wanted to put down and answer for you guys. So I have a couple of questions and I have a golden question at the end that came from one of my friends that I absolutely love this question. I'm not gonna lie, I'm really excited to answer it. So without further ado, let's hop right into it. Question 1 says, who is your favorite character and why? So my favorite character all time is Batman. And I know that's a very generic answer, but to be honest, I think Batman is just like a perfect character to me. You know, he's like just so like he's such like a versatile character. Like he has like his funny moments, he has his cool moments, he has his serious moments, leader moments. His storylines are great. His rogue gallery, everybody knows Batman's rogue gallery is just phenomenal. I think that's just why he's my favorite character personally. But to add on to that, we also have Plastic Man right there on the wall. It's my second favorite character all time. Daredevil, probably my third favorite character all time. Lobo is one of my favorite characters all time. Yeah, so there's like a lot of cool characters out there, but I think Batman is just the number one. Number 2 says, who do I think is the most overrated character? And I'm gonna be honest, in my personal opinion, the most overrated character in all of fiction is probably Sentry. People overestimate how strong Sentry is. He is a very strong character, but without the Void, Sentry is not that strong. He's still very strong, but he's not as strong as people make him out to be. I don't think he's that strong. Number 3 says, which comic run do I think is overrated? To be honest, I don't really know a lot of storylines, that I feel is super overrated. Me personally, I'm not the biggest Green Lantern fan. I don't really like Green Lantern much at all. So if I had to pick one, I'll probably go with the Blackest Night run. Or is it Blackest Day or Blackest Night? One or the other. You know the run I'm talking about. It has some cool moments. It's very pivotal. It is a very important storyline. I just don't personally dig it that much. That's really much all there is to it. Number 4 says, what is my favorite team? My favorite team in Marvel, probably, I don't know. I don't really know what my favorite team in Marvel would be. I've never really been too big on like the Fantastic Four or the X-Men. I've never really favored much of the Avengers either. I think the Illuminati is a great team. They have some really cool comic runs. I guess I would probably say the Illuminati. I guess, I don't know, it's like a cop-out answer. I don't know. Number 5 says, what is my dream crossover comic? My dream crossover comic, I think I would have to go with like, it already happened, but I think I want to see a lot more from John Constantine and Doctor Strange. They had a really cool comic segment in the Deadpool Batman run, but I think I want to see a lot more from them. If I had to think of one that never happened that I want to see, let's think here. Maybe something like Lobo Spawn. Like I want to see like some indie crossovers too, right? Like indie into like Marvel or DC. Like Spawn, Lobo, I don't know if that's happened. Maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. I really don't know. I do want to see a lot more Lobo crossovers. I feel like every Lobo crossover I've seen has been a hit. Supergirl Lobo hit multiple times. Superman Lobo hit. Lobo Batman has hit. But I definitely want to see some Lobo crossovers with Marvel more. If I had to think of one, maybe like a Lobo Spider-Man. I feel like since they're like polar opposites, it will like mix well. Kind of how like Batman and Spider-Man, they're like polar opposites, so it kind of goes well with like their dynamic. That's why their crossovers hit a lot. I feel like Lobo Spider-Man also would hit pretty well because they're both like high energy, right? But for different reasons, and I really want to see how that matches up. Number 6 says, "What is my dream crossover fight?" Most definitely, Constantine Strange. Constantine and Strange. That would most definitely be a crossover fight that I would really want to see. Their peak magic levels. They have a lot of intelligence. They both would a fight between them. Yo, that would be a fight for the ages, bro. That would be such a great fight. I think another one I would like to see would be like Batman, Daredevil. Obviously, that would be a great fight. There's like a lot of fights between that I would love to see with like Batman, Captain America. Yeah. Number 7 says, "Why did I choose this hobby and why do I make content?" Well, I didn't really choose to like comics. I don't know, like it kind of just came to me. I think one of my uncles came to me with a bunch of cards, like like the like the trading cards and stuff, like comic book characters and whatnot. He came to me with a bunch of those, and I was like looking through them. I thought they were super cool. So I picked up a couple of like comics from like a random garage, I think. I don't know. And I started reading them, and I was like, wow, like these are really cool. So I've always been, I guess when I started watching the movies and whatnot, I've always been into, so I guess since then I've always been in like superheroes and stuff. So since I was like three or four. So I was like, yeah, man, like these are super dope. So I started watching movies, just paying a lot more attention to superhero content, like games and whatnot. I didn't start collecting comics until recently, actually. I had a couple, but I didn't really start collecting until very, very recently, like within the last year. The second part to that question is, why did I start making content? Well, I really started making content because I feel like everybody should get their opinion out there, and whether it's about anything. So I feel like for me, making content about superheroes, sharing my opinion with you guys on how I feel about certain things, certain storylines, what I'm excited about, it's good for me, right? Because I like talking about things with people, especially if it's people that like you guys that enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? If you do, but I feel like talking about things with people is just great. So even if you want to have a conversation, you know what I'm saying, you can comment down below. I'll reply to all the comments for real. But yeah, I really only do content because I just like sharing my opinion with people. Number 8 says, "Who is the strongest street tier and why?" The strongest street tier is probably Spider-Man, because he's just at the like very peak of street tier. His power goes beyond street tier, to be honest, like his strength. Well, actually, not really. Base Spider-Man, base Spider-Man doesn't go beyond street tier, but other versions of Spider-Man does. I mean, you can really say that for anybody though. But yeah, Spider-Man is definitely probably the strongest street tier in my opinion. Mostly because of his versatility when it comes to fighting. And he's fighting off impulse, right? So that means he's not necessarily as skilled as other fighters, right? But because of his character, because of like the impulse that he has, due to his normal personality, mixed with like the kind of given skills from the spider, the radioactive spider, and all that stuff, that heightened his senses so much that combining with his normal like psychology makes him so just elusive in a way, right? It just makes him so much more elusive than what maybe somebody else, right? I feel like if Batman was bit by the same spider, got the same powers, right, he'd be a lot stronger, a lot faster, things like that. But he won't be able to control, or his spider sense won't be as good as Peter Parker's because of his normal character, in my opinion. Because of his normal character, that's what makes his spidey sense so strong. Number 9 says, "Who or what is my favorite comic book run?" There are a lot of great comic book runs out there. You know, you have the Predator Prey Superman. That's probably my favorite Superman run. You got the lead up to the Flashpoint, and then you have the Flashpoint, which is another great run. But I think my favorite run is probably the Dark Knight Death Metal run with the Batman Who Laughs. I just think that's my favorite run because they have so many great characters, so many cool characters. You have like just the Batman Who Laughs. He's such a great character. He's definitely one of my favorite characters of all time. He would be on like the all-time list if he wasn't just another version of Batman and the Joker. I mean, I guess in a way he's kind of his own character, but canonically he is just Batman. But yeah, I think that's probably my favorite run ever because it's not just like a short little story that's like, okay, a couple of cool scenes and then it's over. No, you're getting a full-fledged out, multiple fights, some really cool characters that you don't really see as often doing cool things. Harley Quinn is like a good guy in that one. Well, you kind of have to be a good guy when you're facing somebody that's literally threatening your entire existence. On multiple, you know what I'm saying, multiple levels. Like he's threatening existences in different multiverses, bro. Like he was disgusting, man. I think one of my favorite scenes from there is the panel where he's like running with the Speed Force, like when he's running with Jake Garrick, Barry Allen, and Wally West when they're trying to like escape him, and you just see like him like over them. Like, bro, it's so clean. And then you get the Darkest Night. Oh my gosh, man. That was such a phenomenal comic run. That's definitely my favorite. All right, number 10, last question, and probably the question that's going to take the longest and my favorite question. I really enjoyed reading this question, and it took me a lot to think about. I definitely had to get in my bag for this one. The question is, what comic book character do I think can find out who is Kira from Death Note? This question is really hard, right? Because you can say anybody who was smart can figure out who's Kira, but that's not true, right? Because if you take like Tony Stark, if you take Iron Man, and you tell him, all right, there's somebody killing people, killing criminals randomly, we need help finding him. He's smart. He's very smart. But he's smart in the sense of engineering, mechanic stuff, science, things like that. His detective skills aren't great. So you could tell him that, and sure, he might be able to find like I don't know, maybe use Jarvis to like figure out a couple patterns and whatnot, but he's not going to find out who Kira is. Maybe not. Now, me personally, I watched Death Note a couple of times. I watched the whole series a couple of times. I think I wouldn't put Light on the scale of smartest character in anime. Even though a lot of people do, I personally don't think he is, because he's made so many mistakes throughout Death Note that has been pivotal in him getting caught, right? Because if you really think about it, he's been caught since the beginning. L knew exactly who he was. He just needed to prove it. That's all it was. He knew he was Kira. So I think it won't be as hard as the show made it out to be. He kind of got copped out by plot a lot, right? So I don't think it's as hard. I don't think it's as hard as L made it out to be before he died. But I do think it is still going to be a serious challenge because Light is smart. He is smart. I'm not saying he's not smart. He's very smart, but I don't think he's smarter than L. Now, some characters in comics that I think can find out who is Kira. Number one, I have Batman, obviously, right? Batman is a phenomenal detective. Everybody knows that. World's greatest detective, maybe. You know what I'm saying? I think using a lot of deductive reasoning, he will be able to find out who is... No, first he's going to figure out where is Kira, right? And this is one of the main points that I just made of Light making very grave mistakes in Death Note. When he started killing, he was focused on Japan, mostly just Japan. And so that tells you right there that you have a main point of search, right? You know where to go, right? And then I feel like anybody with any amount of detective skills would instantly start broadcasting in specific places in Japan to figure out where he is. And again, Light fell for that same tactic. Batman will think of that, and he will use that. He will start broadcasting in specific parts of Japan to figure out where you are. And then boom, it's just a matter of, you know what I'm saying, getting in there, getting the task force, getting all that. It will be possible for Batman. I think Batman will definitely be able to do it. Another person I have on there is Detective Chimp, pretty much for the same reasoning. Also a great detective, pretty much with the same deductive reasoning as Batman. And yeah, I think Detective Chimp would be able to fish it out. Another one I have is Wonder Woman. Now, she doesn't have that great of detective skills. She's a smart character, but her detective skills aren't the best. However, I think because of the lasso of truth, if she gets any type of lead that can lead her to Light, then it's game over. Another one I would say is Joe Gollum. If you don't know who Joe Gollum is, he's like a paranormal detector in the Batman, or like the Detective Comics series. I say him because not only is he exceptional detective, he's a pretty good detective. Not only that, he detects things with paranormal stuff, right? So I think he would catch on to the idea of a Shinigami pretty fast and be able to, you know, once he takes on the approach of, okay, is a Shinigami really something that exists? Or really he's gonna start with, what am I dealing with? Am I dealing with a ghost, a demon, something like that? He's gonna and then it will lead him to thinking about, okay, it's not a ghost, demon, ghoul, you know what I'm saying, none of that. What is it? Because there's no way on Earth there is a human that can kill somebody without being anywhere near them with just a face and a name. You know what I'm saying? That he's gonna catch that, right? And so he's gonna instantly jump to something out of this world, because that's what he does, right? That's his job. So he catches on to that, and then it's just a matter of, okay, it's a Shinigami. How do Shinigami come to this world? What do I need to do to see the Shinigami? How do I find a Shinigami? And boom. Once he's not going to go through the approach of finding Light, he's going to go through the approach of finding the Shinigami, right? And once he finds the Shinigami, he's going to find Light, because the Shinigami is connected to Light. So boom. The last person I had on this list was Hellboy, and it's kind of the same reason for Joe Gollum. He's a demon himself, so he's not going to be appalled by the idea of a Shinigami. And not only that, Hellboy is also a detective, a great detective at that. His detective skills aren't as good as like Batman and Detective Chimps, but his detective skills are still pretty good, right? So I think his reasoning, his brains, will get him to finding out where, what, and how a Shinigami is here on Earth. What is it doing on Earth? Who is controlling the Shinigami? How is people dying, right? That's what Hellboy and Joe Gollum are going to do. They are going for the approach of, what is a Shinigami? How do I find it? Rather than, who is Light? Who is Kira? That's how I thought about it. And that's really all for this video. If you have more questions, drop them down in the comments below. I'll definitely be sure to answer them. If there's enough comments, maybe I'll make a part 2 to this. We'll see. I hope you guys have a great day, and make sure you like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Later.